live in a digital era where micro-skilling, micro-credentials, micro-certification, upskilling are buzzwords. In today's generation, employers are thinking that 60% of the skills required in the next 3 to 5 years will be outdated. Employees also believe, over half of them believe that they need new knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to survive in this digital age. I would like to start by presenting the global, regional, and even the current framework in the Philippines on micro-credentials. At the tertiary education level, post-secondary, there are already courses being offered which we coined as micro-credentials. Where is this coming from? And the duration of different courses now are becoming shorter and shorter. There are short 3, 5, or even a month of micro-credentials being offered at the global level, booming since the pandemic, and at the regional level, and even in the Philippines. Let me walk you through on the global perspective where this micro-credentials started. Next, I would like to share that this idea stemmed from the UN Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, where countries agreed to define the 7 Sustainable Development Goals. And one of them is goal number 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And even during the Confintea Summit in Morocco, the 7th International Conference on Adult Education, Areas and Policy Action included supporting adult learning and education, or what we call as ALE. It talks about inclusion of the National Qualifications Framework, the National Education Sector Development Plans. It also envisions to provide support for adult learning and education through better governance. Most importantly, we have to provide lifelong learning for everyone with participation, inclusion, and equity, even in this digital age. However, when we open ourselves for lifelong learning different programs, we also should be conscious of quality, that there should be continuous data collection, monitoring, and evaluation of all the lifelong learning programs. And because this is a buzzword and booming, there is a need for the governments to provide support to quality adult learning and education programs within the lifelong learning perspective. In the ASEAN, in our region of 10 countries, they have already adopted the ASEAN Digital Economy Frameworks. They have consolidated plans of action for Industry 4.0. We would like to build a digital community with better technological governance, thinking about cybersecurity, cyber ethics, digital transformation of our ASEAN society, more capacity building, cooperation and collaboration between among nations. In 2022, ASEAN also adopted the Declaration on Digital Transformation of Education Systems. Right after the pandemic, the ministers have agreed to provide digital inclusion, digital technology, and train teachers on digital pedagogies, capacity building, providing more digital infrastructure, expanding cultural development between among countries in ASEAN, and also thinking about inclusion, social welfare, and protection. Innovation will be fostered in the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework. I would like to say that micro-credentials, lifelong learning, emanated as well from the ASEAN Declaration on Human Resource Development for the Changing World of Work, where the ASEAN member states have already adopted since 2020. The roadmap was developed cognizant of the changing world of work due to Industry 4.0, due to artificial intelligence, automation, Internet of Things, the current ChatGPT, demographic transition, among others. We need to have new sets of skills with better HRD for ASEAN in this changing world of work. On the Declaration of Digital Transformation of Educational System, the Ministers of Education and the leaders of ASEAN already adopted that digital transformation will happen. And they have adopted 36-point agreements among member states on how to advance transformation in our educational system. Among those that they have declared, first is to ensure the teachers, the trainers, and the educators of children and young people will develop through effective and equitable pedagogies, pre-service, in-service teacher training. Teaching and learning also changed during the pandemic. Now we're defining the future of teaching, the future of learning. Countries also agreed to implement appropriate pedagogies, formative assessment. We're also thinking about the future of assessment, which is far, far different from the traditional way of assessing learners, with new portfolios. They also agreed to develop and promote access to quality digital learning resources. We need more resources. And of course, to build a shared repository of learning resources among the countries of ASEAN. In the end, they agreed to utilize digital technology to enhance their national EMIS, or Educational Management Information System. The way it is collected, interpreted, analyzed, aggregated, and the use of this data for policy recommendations and policy outcomes. If we look at ASEAN today, the Secretariat has issued a publication on the ASEAN's 10 fastest growing jobs. And you will see that this is all related to digitalization. The jobs related to AI and machine learning, we have this now, which before we're never even thinking about artificial intelligence. Sustainability sciences and specialization, data analytics, robotics, business intelligence, and new forms of jobs brought by automation and digitalization. Well, as they said, there are also declining jobs that may need to be reformatted in the digital age. Such jobs are those that are requiring normal or person-managed activities or jobs that are traditional and will be subjected to more automation. It includes, of course, banking. It also includes some foundational jobs that will even be replaced by more artificial intelligence and digitalization. We also have to take a note on the rising skills in ASEAN. In 10 member states, although we are different in terms of number of population, in terms of culture and people, but they were able to identify the skills on the rise. And this is more related to Industry 4.0, being very creative, systems thinking, analytical thinking, AI and big data management, technological literacy, among others. It also includes 21st century skills like motivation, better communication, creativity. And skills on decline are actually the manual skills. But it will be reprogrammed knowing that artificial intelligence and digitalization are already here. Next, I would like to share with you the survey on ASEAN Youth Readiness on Digitalization. Across ASEAN, we're thinking that most of our young people are already digitally literate. But according to the survey of ASEAN, 87% of youth increased their use of at least one digital tool during the pandemic. So many have migrated to digital gadgets and tools. However, also in that survey, 42% of our youth in ASEAN use only one digital tool. 64% of full-time students use online education. That's even higher than what we earlier predicted, that only 50% in the Philippines can access all of these MOOCs or online education. Across ASEAN, it's 64%, and 70% of full-time students believe that they increase usage of online education, having made available through hybrid and flexible learning. And 38% of ASEAN workers believe that they also use online education to update themselves, to upskill and reskill themselves, especially with the growing digitalization. What is micro-credentials then? So as I said, more and more employers and employees are thinking that they need to change and get themselves ready for the new kind of workspaces we have. And so micro-credentials, sometimes called as micro-credential or micro-certificate, in some of our agencies in the government here, they call it micro-certificate. And it's like a series of courses that culminate in micro-certificate, or advanced institutions would offer digital badge from accredited university or recognized university or even another external provider. Micro-credentials allow employers to see your new kind of proficiency, your new kind of skills in specific subject area. And it's also proof that you have a new knowledge, you have a new skill in this digital era. A learner receives micro-credentials after passing an assessment or completing and passing the required assessment in a particular micro-course. Traditionally, micro-course would be 3 weeks or even longer. So how do we get micro-credentials? So universities all over the world are saying that this is offered online. It's a mobile course. Learners choose the subject area and skills needed to build or hone their expertise. For example, data sciences, artificial intelligence, or even adult education, or even a course on micro-credentials. They have to choose that subject. And after that, the learners usually apply online as a degree student and explore also other resources for non-degree students. So this is not the traditional way of looking at things. But once admitted, the student can enroll in some other classes and start working on their micro-credentials. What we are thinking is that once you complete one micro-credential, you can go to other series of courses that make up micro-credentials. The learner receives a notification, usually from a provider, on the badge that you got from certain micro-credential. Learners can post as well the micro-credentials in their social media platforms, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, or other websites. So digital credentials are already on the go, not only in ASEAN, but globally. I would like to share with you micro-credentials in ASEAN member states. Brunei Darussalam, through the University Technology Brunei, or UTB, already offered a postgraduate micro-credentials. And these micro-credentials are designed for working professionals, recent graduates, to support their upskilling and reskilling. So in the Brunei qualifications framework, it's above the bachelor's degree, level 7, and the learner will join classes in 1 or 2 chosen modules for at least 14 weeks. At the end of micro-credentials in Brunei, you can get a certificate of completion. Now, when it comes to a partnership between the University of Brunei Technology and Simeo Voctech, they have agreed to offer micro-credentials related to TVET education. They will also offer 3 weeks or more courses leading to certification in TVET courses. And this has already been presented to the ASEAN TVET Council for Skills for Business. In Cambodia, they have embraced integration of technology in education, new generation of schools, by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports. This is an initiative that has long been introduced by the minister to improve Cambodia's education quality. The Royal University of Phnom Penh already started developing micro-credential courses. If we go to other programs of Indonesia, we'll see that they have together developed the Indonesian cyber education, pioneered by the minister himself. The Indonesian students can already access micro-credentials in their own language and even in English. And it provides opportunities for students to study off campus. There are different modalities where you can access micro-credentials in Indonesia. But ICE is the front liner and front runner of micro-credentials in their own country. If we go to Lao PDR, it's a landlocked country, they have already started looking at short courses to upskill the Lao people. And there is an institute catering to developing advanced technology. They have started this kind of revolution since Industry 4.0, and they would like to train more teachers on big data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. The Alter, which is an institution outside of the Ministry of Education, already identified key knowledge that they should achieve in this Industry 4.0 age. Malaysia has made significant strides in embracing micro-credentials in TVET and in higher education. Micro-credentials are designed with specific learning path involving study of programs at your own space, at your own pace, and in different online learning environments. Micro-credentials are being recognized and approved by the Malaysian Qualifications Authority, which led various quality assurance programs, including micro-credentialings. As of today, they have already over 2,000 accredited micro-credentials in Malaysia. If we go to Myanmar, experiencing a lot of conflicts, they have also advanced digital strategy in education. Through the assistance of Indonesia, Myanmar embarked on micro-credentials with ICE, or the Indonesian Cyber Education Programs. They also participated in designing and in targeting different flexible practical learning experiences for Myanmar students. We have seen that, technology and innovation for future education and business, and building and managing businesses in the age of tourism technology were offered to Myanmar students, including introduction to game programming. In the Philippines, we know that TESDA pioneered the policy on micro-credentials, coming up with a micro-credentialing system that covers different delivery methods, both for formal, non-formal, and informal systems. They have also introduced and initiated stackable credentials at TESDA. For the higher education institution, which I will discuss later, different higher education institutions in the Philippines embarked and already offered micro-credentials in AI, data sciences, and many other courses. In the Philippines, for higher education, state universities and colleges and private higher education institutions already started offering micro-credentials in different specific disciplines. But the most common ones, most popular ones, are on digital skills, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. In Singapore, the Ministry of Education already launched Transforming Education through Technology Master Plan 2030. They have also asked universities, polytechnics to offer micro-credentials under their Skills Future program. There are micro-learning courses that are designed for different learners. There are also micro-learning certificates designed for mobile learning. Thailand introduced Thai 4.0 program, bringing smart industry, smart city, and smart people. Under the Office of Vocational Education Commission, they have provided upskilling and reskilling of Thai people, developing human resources for the period 2012-2026. Thailand micro-credentials are heavily offered by their open universities and their higher education institutions that are leading the field. In Vietnam, they have already increased equal access to high-quality training through their HRD policy framework, which highlighted the task of promoting access to micro-credentials, especially in TVET. Micro-credentials can be seen in different certification programs, professional training, vocational education. In higher education, RMIT Vietnam already offered student learning platform. The micro-credential is also open to all students enrolled in their RMIT campus in Vietnam. The micro-credential courses complements the short training courses and resources offered by different universities, which are co-created as well by researchers, engineers of Vietnam. The National Strategy for Micro-Credential in the Philippines was also launched during the National Innovation Agenda and Strategy launched by the President himself, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. He emphasized the value of micro-credentials for Filipino workers to stay competitive. He also said in his description that micro-credential is not a 4-year course, it's not a degree, but you can present this to qualify for a job. He emphasized the need for Filipino learners to provide all of these opportunities, especially for overseas Filipino workers intending to return to the country. As of now, the Commission on Higher Education, TESDA, and DepEd are working on micro-credentials alignment. In basic education, it can be seen as well as micro-certificate for life skills. In TESDA, micro-credential can be covered in a stackable credentials for TVET, and CHED is currently preparing policy standards and guidelines on micro-credentials. But even without the national policy on micro-credentials, many universities in the Philippines have already offered micro-credentials to accommodate the changing needs of learners who can now have flexibility to take as many courses as they wish without a degree. Although there is no national policy yet on micro-credentials in higher education, many universities have already offered micro-credentials to accommodate the changing needs of learners. Higher education course packs were developed for certificate programs, for diploma programs, and later on, connected to a degree program. Discussions are currently underway for micro-credentials for learners, which can be later credited to a degree acquisition. TESDA also, through the National Institute for Technical Education Skills Development, they have embarked on guidelines for recognizing or putting in place micro-credential courses. And during the pandemic, TESDA has provided online micro-credentials, and it has already reached more than 1 million adult learners. Micro-credentials in higher education is a work in progress. Although there is no policy on micro-credentials yet, many universities have already offered micro-credentials to accommodate the changing needs of learners who can now have the flexibility to take as many courses as they wish or they can without a degree's financial and time commitments. Higher education course packs were developed for certificate programs, diploma programs, and later on degree programs. Discussions are on the way on how micro-credentials can really be beneficial for all learners, which may later on be credited to degree acquisition.